forward to this. Well, that's so nice of them to tell us. Recording in progress. Let's share PowerPoint. All right. And everyone can see my screen? Fab. All right, so let me start it. All right, so Clallam County point in time count 2025. Like I said, my name is Morgan Barthlick. I'm the count coordinator, and I work for Serenity House of Clallam County. So for today, I make this not there we go. This is our agenda for the day. We'll talk about what is the PIT count and why we do it. What will PIT 2025 look like for us? Resources that are available for you and for your teams and for other volunteers. Scheduling the PIT, where I'll talk about how I coordinate locations for people to do the count and do the surveys. And then I'll leave some time for question and answers at the end. Also, feel free, if you have a question along the way, feel free to put it in the chat, and then I can look at that at the end and we can go through some questions so you don't have to hold on to them until the end. All right, so what is PIT, as it's affectionately called, point in time PIT? So the point in time count, also known as the PIT count, is a federally mandated annual count of homeless people nationwide. PIT counts individuals at a single point in time every January. The purpose of this count is to obtain data for HUD and Commerce. Data from the PIT count is used to make state and federal funding decisions that directly impact our county. Locally, we use PIT data to write grants and connect with clients who may not yet be receiving services. Additionally, this would also be for reconnecting with clients who reconnecting clients to services that they need. Another one of the things that PIT count does is that it also gives us in the forms characteristics about homelessness throughout the state and especially in our county. Things like the gender makeup of our homeless population for the PIT count, the race demographics, age demographics, and other things like maybe how they were led into homelessness, if it was the loss of a job, if it was medical debt, if it was they were evicted or lost their housing, or if housing affordability overall was one of the issues that they faced in going homeless, in becoming homeless. So the PIT is consisted of two different types of counts. There's the sheltered count, which would be for emergency shelters and transitional housing. And this would be for programs that are already a part of the Commerce program. So like the Healthy Families Shelter, Mariposa House Shelter, the transitional housing that they have, as well as our transitional housing at Serenity House, and of course, the Serenity House Shelter. A lot of that data is pulled directly from HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System. So most of the people that you will encounter when you are doing the surveys, when you are doing the PIT count, are going to be unsheltered peoples. However, you might run into people who are staying in either transitional housing or an emergency shelter. So we do have a separate form for them as well. So then going into the unsheltered count, unsheltered would include people who are living on the street, in a tent, in a car, an abandoned building, boat, RV lacking heat, electricity, running water, excuse me, in jail or a hospital detox facility. In just a second, I'm going to give an example of the forms filled out so that it gives you an idea of the information that we need, and also information that um, while it would be helpful to get, is not the most important to get, but it's helpful in the long run. So first, I'm going to give you an unsheltered version. So let me just click. All right, so here you can see I have the unsheltered count form in front of us. So everything on this first page that you see over here on the left-hand side, this is the most important information to get. Um, this is all of the things that we will be putting into HMIS in when we do the data entry for this. And a lot of this is this first page, like I just said, is the most important because those are the primary questions that Commerce wants answered. Um, so starting at the top, you'll see that we have the location where household was surveyed. So for this person, this family that I've example, they were on Peabody Street in Port Angeles. One thing that'll be helpful when filling out these forms, I will be creating a list of locations for different organizations, agencies, and volunteers to go to. And it would be really helpful to have the locations where you found them put, whether that's, I would love for it to be like a specific location, like either a street name in the city where you are, or maybe the building that you're next to. Like, let's say it was like the Walmart in Squim. So you would put Walmart dash Squim. So here I put Peabody dash Port Angeles. The current city and town is the current city and town that they are living in. They could be technically, we could have people who are over in Squim who primarily stay in Port Angeles. So don't just assume that the city that they are in is the city that they are currently living in. So then, where did the household sleep on the night of January 30th, 2025, which is the date of the pit count? So for this person, I chose that they are living outdoors. As you can see, you can also choose vehicle, abandoned building, or RV boat lacking any of the following amenities. The three that you see that says temporarily living with family, friends, jail, hospital, detox, other facility. So those three locations are not considered homeless by HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who mandate this count. However, it does help if with our data about who is living where. Moving on. So then we get into the housing questions. For some of you, this form is going to look a little different than it has in past years. We have a new state coordinator this year. Her name's Ashton, and she went through and did her best to condense everything down as best as possible and take out any redundancies. So there have been, in past forms, there have been a few questions that you ask early on and then you kind of re-ask them later, and she wanted to get rid of that. So in the housing questions, has any household or minor head of household been continuously without housing for a year or more? This person is no. If that person is yes, you can skip questions 2A and 2B. So if they answer yes to question 1, you can skip 2A and 2B. If they answer no to question 1, you will continue with 2A, and then has any adult, so 2A, has any adult in the household or minor head of household been without housing 4 or more times in the last 3 years? So this person said yes, and so then you continue on to question 2B. If you answer no to question 2A, then you skip question 2B. And 2B, do these times without housing added together amount to a year or more? And so for this client that I found, the answer is yes. Then we have the last known permanent address location, which this isn't optional, but we also find this very helpful to see where homeless in our county, are they, um, if they're in Port Angeles now, this person was previously living in Squim. Were they, previously living in Forks? Were they living somewhere outside of Clallam County? Were they over in Jefferson County? Was their last known location maybe in California? Things like that happen. So if you can get that information, fantastic. Moving on. Oh, I marked this wrong. I will clear up this example so I can put it out correctly. So this X should be on household with children, not household without children. So this is household with children. Did I do these backwards? Oh, I went too far. Haha, I'm so sorry. So all this is the same. Oh, there we go. So household with children. And so my form was correct. So household with children, are they fleeing domestic violence? So neither of the people in this family are experiencing domestic violence. If anyone in the household, you can see right here, if any household member is fleeing domestic violence, do not collect name, date of birth, or race or ethnicity, and do not sign the release of information. So for my examples, Bob Dylan and Susie Dylan, I've answered no for both of them, so we can take their information. So we have Bob Dylan and Susie Dylan. So Bob is the head of household and Susie is his child. We get Bob's full date of birth, and same with Susie's. And then we select the gender that they identify with. And you can select all that apply. And this is something that you can ask them. And then going on, we would select race and ethnicity. Again, select all that apply for them. They may be multiracial. In our case, for Bob and Susie, they are both white. Disabling conditions and barriers. So Bob has a chronic health condition and he has a substance use disorder. And Susie has no disabilities or barriers or disabling barriers. Then we go into veteran status. Were you ever active duty in U.S. military? For Bob, I said yes. For Susie, since she is 12, that is a no. So just going through this first page, these are the things that I really need on the forms to be filled out in full. So going on, these next two boxes, circumstances leading to their housing status and sources of household income and benefits. These are optional. However, they are helpful just so we can gain a larger understanding of how our homeless community, what is leading people to become homeless within Clallam County. So for Bob, as I said, Bob has a chronic health disorder and substance use disorder. So things that potentially Bob, his health issues, his physical health and disability could have led to mounting medical costs, which then, with his physical condition, he could have lost his job or been unemployed, which then could have led to an eviction from their house. And then if, is there any kind of income or benefits coming in? And I said that Bob is doing seasonal work, so it's only every once in a while that he's getting money in. So then this next section, the client release of information and informed consent. This is to allow us to enter the data that we collect into HMIS so that we can congregate all of it and send it off to Commerce, who then sends it off to HUD. And this is just to give permission so that they are aware that this information is going in there. So because there's a dependent child under the age of 18, I have listed Susie right here. And then we also need to get Bob's signature. I wasn't able to find a font, that looked like a signature. So I wrote Bob's signature. And then you'll clearly print his name. And then on this side, you'll put the date, which most likely will be on the pit count date. However, just as a reminder, the pit will go from the 30th and all the way until a week later on the 6th. We have to count people. And then you would put your name. So I put my name, and then I put my initials right at the end there. So now what I want to do is I'm going to show you, it's going to be almost exactly the same with a couple errors on my part. For if we have someone who is fleeing domestic violence or they do not want to give their consent refused, this is what the form would look like, and this is how we would handle that. So pretty much everything is the same. Peabody Street, Port Angeles, the current city is Port Angeles, all the same kinds of things. So when we get to fleeing domestic violence, we would check yes on those. And so then we won't take Bob or Susie's name down. We would write in consent refused because that's how they will appear in HMIS. And then instead of getting their birth date, we would take just their age. So Bob is 45 and Susie is 12. So we have 45 and 12, and then all of the same factors still apply. That, we checked off their gender, race and ethnicity, except we won't do race and ethnicity for consent refused. Give me 2 seconds to make a note to myself. So I update these examples for online and to send out to you surveys. Selecting off the disabling barriers that they may have, whether they were a veteran or not, and then the circumstances leading to their homelessness. So with them being consent refused, they would not sign this form. Consent refused clients do not sign the release of information. We would initial that they are consent refused, as you see here with my initials, MRB. You would do the same exact thing, put the date, put your name, and then your initials. So I wanted to give an example of how we use the PIT data to notice trends that are happening within Clallam County and how that makes us look at programs, at least for Serenity House, and grants that we potentially apply for. So in 2024, our PIT count was a total of 285 individuals. 110 of those were in our shelter. We're in the Serenity House shelter on the PIT count last year. And through the help of all of you and other volunteers, we found 175 unsheltered individuals in that. One of the biggest things that we have noticed, as you can see, we have these aging trends for the 45 to 54 age group and the 55 plus age group. Since 2021, we have seen a 65% growth in the over 55 age bracket for our homeless. And so one of the things that informed for us at Serenity House is we now have our over 55 plus rapid rehousing program that is specifically for those who are 55 and over. And another thing that has been revealed to us is that in the 2024 PIT count, 67% of those that were surveyed were between the ages of 25 to 54. Which out of that 285, that's 191 people. So that makes us think, what kinds of things can we do for this age bracket? I know it's a long span, a 30-year age span, but what can we do in this group going forward to help them? What resources can we provide them? What services do they need to be able to get out of homelessness and get into stable housing? So those are just some of the things that we um, use the pit count for within the county. This page is taken out of the 2024 Clallam County Annual Report that we turn into the Department of Commerce for the Consolidated Homeless Grant. If anyone would like to read this or any of the past annual reports, either for Clallam County as a whole or Serenity House, you can go onto the Serenity House website, serenityhouseclallam.org, and you can find these under our About page. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a section of annual reports that you can for both Clallam and just Serenity House. And you can look through those and you can see the things that we're finding over the years. So here is what it will look like. So in a little bit, I'm going to send out a SurveyMonkey form. I kind of love saying the phrase SurveyMonkey. That will be due at latest by January 20th. That would be not this upcoming Monday, but the Monday after that. The sooner you can get those in, the better. What's included in that form is, excuse me, you'll fill out things like your name, whether you're with an organization or not, if you'll be just volunteering, if you're an organization that's going to be doing things during business hours, where you would like to do the count, and a couple of other questions. That will help inform where I select people to go. I plan to have the pit schedules finalized by the Thursday before, so 1 week before, by the end of that day. So the 23rd is also the next date for the next informational meeting. If I can, I would love to have those for you at that meeting. If I can't have them for you at the meeting, I would have them to you by the end of the day, where you would be going and when. So then January 30th, the following Thursday, is the official night of the count. So that's going to be the day that we do the count as a whole. Yes, Kelly.
Hi. So if you're doing the survey for an agency, does each person need to fill that out, or is it just one form for the agency for the Survey Monkey form?
You can do one form for the agency. Um, Unless you have, specific people in like different areas. Like if you have a caseworker that's out in Forks, who's going to do the count out in Forks for you, I would love for them to write in that they're going to do the West End. If you could have, for OPCC, I know you'll have a few people assisting in the count, and um, you might spread out between Squim, PA, and Forks. And so if I could get just one individual for each location, and then I can send all that information to that person or to the whole team.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I
Yep.
think last year there was some confusion around that, and we did individual forms. So thank you
Which
for
was,
that.
and that was totally fine. And, it was great to see all of the people. It was really great. But just doing one per location that you have would be totally great too.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Um, so January 30th is the official night that and the official day that we'll do the count. However, I know there are some volunteers who won't be able to do Thursday. And also there are some locations that aren't open on Thursdays that have unsheltered individuals stop by. Um, And so the count goes all the way through until February 6th. The thing to note is that if you are doing a survey past the 30th, you always need to make sure that you ask, where did you sleep on January 30th? Not just where did you sleep last night, it's where did you sleep on January 30th? Most likely, it is the same place that they are most likely staying that night, but for some people, we know that we have individuals that do move around. So if they are able to remember the exact spot they were that night, that would be great. So by February 14th, I would love to have all surveys brought back to Serenity House of Clallam County. You can drop those off at our admin building anytime after the count, anytime after um, you have completed all the surveys that you think you're going to get. Um, so at latest by Valentine's Day would be great. Um, and then 2 weeks later, we will have all of the information and all the survey information put into HMIS to send off to the Department of Commerce so that they can start doing all of their analysis and start doing data quality checks, making sure we don't have any duplicates, things like that. Um, so on the day of count, volunteers will go out throughout all of Clallam County to count unsheltered people. Organizations will offer count forms in addition to their regular services. Everything you need to conduct the count is right here. This will take you to our PIT website that we have, which is clallampitcount.org. And this goes to our resource page, which has the survey forms for you to download and the examples, which I will update so that they are correct on the website. And also, you'll be able to find the recording that we're making right now. That will also be on the website for everyone to see, as well as a copy of this presentation to follow along. So, like I said, this is our point in time poster that I created. That I sent out to everyone. You can also download PDF and PNG versions off the website, off the Pit Count website. So some resources are Clallam County Pit website that I keep talking about, where you can find flyers, pit forums, you can find guidelines and training resources there as well. The Washington Department of Commerce Pit website has additional forms and resources as well. And also the HUD Exchange, which is the national website for pit resources. Excuse me. Apparently not a good day for my throat. And so those are all the spaces where you can find more information, resources for training. So scheduling. So I will also send out this link, obviously, but you'll be able to click here, or right now, if you have your smartphone, you can scan the QR code that is on the screen, and it will take you directly to the SurveyMonkey link. And this will be where you can put in all that information, so we can figure out who is going to be where for the pit count. Like I said, responses are required by Monday, January 20th. But the sooner the better, so that I can get on making locations and getting out the map to everybody sooner. So before we end, I wanted to just talk about a couple things that we had a training this week with our state coordinators. And they wanted to talk about helping our volunteers understand how to do the count. For some of us, we're very used to working with our clientele and used to engaging with people in this manner. And for some of our volunteers, this might be the first time they're doing data collection of this type, or interacting with our population. And so one of the things that Commerce brought up to us was trauma-informed data collection. And so these were some of the guidelines about and thoughts that they had about how we can collect that information from the people that we survey better. So we would introduce ourselves. So, like I would say, like, I'm Morgan Barthlick. I'm working with Serenity House of Clallam County to do the point in time count. We want to explain what PIT is and what the survey process is. We want to, the what and the why. So, we are doing the PIT count to collect data on those who are unsheltered and those who are homeless on a certain day every year. And that this information helps us to understand the characteristics of our homeless population and the services that are needed to help them. You, of course, want to ask for their permission if they want to take the survey. Some people will not want to take the survey. Others will gladly want to take the survey. You want to, as best as possible, and when you can, is create privacy so that you can ask these questions. Affirm the answers to ensure accuracy of what you're asking. Just asking that re-clarifying question, let's say it's their birthday. I just want to make sure that your birthday is May 20th of 1979. Um, Remind the respondents that they don't have to answer any question. They don't have to answer every question. If there's a question that they would prefer not to answer or they don't know the answer to, there are choices for that on the survey. If an answer is provided in the conversation that you're having, don't feel the need to ask that question. So let's say when you're talking to them and you haven't gotten to the section where they talk about having a disability and asking about that, but early in the conversation they talk about having a chronic health illness or a chronic health condition, you can check that off and you don't have to ask that question unless you feel like you need to ask if they have any other disabling barriers that they hadn't told you about before. One of the other things is language access. I am going to work on getting uh, forms in other languages. If there are specific languages that you think we need or that I need to supply everybody with, please let me know either in the chat or by emailing me. I know we can easily get forms in Spanish, which I think would be especially helpful out on the West End. But I also know that we have other language barriers within our county. So if there are any, or if you know of any clients that you have who would benefit from having a survey that's in their language, please let me know. Another thing with doing the survey is providing meaningful engagement with the clientele and those we survey. So you want to make sure that you're having a conversation with them. It doesn't need to just be, I'm here to do the survey. Let's just get through these questions as quick as possible. Um, we are interacting with other human beings and we're interacting with people who may be at some of the lowest points in their life. So we want to really make that connection and make them feel welcome and comfortable as we are talking to them. Offer resources to them when you can and provide potential next steps, but don't make promises that you can't keep. That was one of the big things that they talked about with doing meaningful engagement. Providing the resources that they could use and those next steps is always so helpful. But we never want to say that we're going to do something when we don't know that we can do that. And also, don't make assumptions. Really ask the question, don't just guess their answer. Pardon my phrasing right now, but as we all know, the saying goes, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. So let's not do our best to assume. And this also goes into the next point that they gave us. Don't assume someone is homeless because of where they are or how they look. that's something that in my time in the pit that hasn't entirely been an issue, but it is something to be mindful of. So they did give an example of wording that we could use when we are out surveying and we might see somebody. So the example they gave is, "Hi, my name is Morgan. We're out here trying to talk to folks who might not have a safe place to sleep tonight. Do you have a safe place to sleep tonight? Do you know where I might find some people around here who don't?" Um, so those were kind of some guidelines that they gave us, which I thought were really helpful. They have a few other things that I'll also connect everyone to, that I thought were super helpful. Um, so that gets to the end of this presentation section. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Um, and I'm going to jump to the chat because I know that there were a few things that were brought up. How do we know if someone is fleeing domestic violence? Great question, Mike. That would be something that you would ask while you're doing the survey. As you're going down the form, let me just reshare my screen really fast so I can just show that. Boom, boom. So if we go back to, so you can see it here. So under the household information, you would ask them, are you fleeing domestic violence? And so if they answer no, you can take all of their information. If they answer yes, you don't take name, and you do age instead of birth date.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important to establish a relationship early on where they feel um, okay saying, answering
Sharing
that
that
question.
information. Yes, I entirely agree. And that's the whole part of trauma-informed data collection and meaningful engagement with the clientele, so that there is a level of comfortability to, some of these things are not the easiest to ask. It's not always easy to ask somebody if they've dealt with domestic violence or if they have a disabling condition. Um, but by establishing and having those conversations and really, you know, treating the other person with dignity and respect that they deserve, they'll be more willing to give those answers. But let
Thank
me
you.
thank you for the question. Next, Robin. Yes, I can get you more information about the over 55 program. um, for sure. We have some information about it on our website, but I will also chat with the coordinated entry team because off the top of my head, I can't remember who is in charge of over 55 right now. But I can find that out so I can get that contact information to you. And Kelly, will you be sending out this recording and slides? Yes, I will be sending this out to everybody. You are free to share this far and wide. I will be uploading this to the Serenity House YouTube page that we have, so that you can find it there. I'll send these slides out. I'll also send out the examples that I made, except I'll send out very correct versions and not incorrect versions. Um, Great, Kayla. Thank you for that. Grace Moline does our over 55 program. Great. Thank you so much, Kayla. I thought it was great, but I didn't want to speak out of turn and be wrong. Um, great. Did anyone else have any questions or thoughts? Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask or type it in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
I had a question, Morgan. This is,
Yes,
I'm with the Squim Food Bank,
great.
and I understand that we have been, you've used the food bank before as a place to do the survey, is that right?
So it's been on our list of locations because we know that we do have clientele who this survey would apply to. Do stop
Mhm.
by there. I also know that you guys don't are only open on certain days, and it's usually
Yeah.
not on Thursdays.
Yep, yep, precisely.
What are
Yeah.
your usual days? Is it?
We're Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Perfect. So if your team on Friday on the day after the
31st.
pit on the 31st or Saturday or that following Monday, if
Mhm.
you want to do surveys then, that is totally perfect.
Got it.
Yeah, you can do them then, and you just need to ask where did you sleep on January 30th,
Okay.
and that's it.
Got it.
But you can do it
So
on any other day up until the 6th.
so anyone on our team who understood the form and has
Yep,
kind of gone through the training that you just did with us could
yep,
do yeah, got it.
yep.
Great. And actually, two little other questions.
Mhm.
So you mentioned if they say, nope, I don't want to take the survey, at that point, there's nothing for us to fill out.
Yeah, no, nothing for you to fill out if they
Okay.
don't want to take the survey. Because again, it's about, we want to get as much information as possible, but
Mhm.
it's also respecting the people that we are trying to survey.
Sure.
And, I wouldn't want someone to just fill out a form about me if I said no.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep. Okay, great. And then on the question for last known permanent location, do you mean the last location where they were housed?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the last known address that they had for that was what they would have considered permanent long term.
got it. Okay, thanks, Morgan.
You're so welcome. Anyone else have any questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining in this call today. Like I said, if you do have any more questions, feel free to email me. The easiest email, because my name is long, is just serenity@serenityhouseclallam.org. That'll come directly to me. Any questions that you have, um, feel free to send those in. If you have anyone who would like to participate who wasn't able to be here, they can come to our next meeting on the 23rd. You can also send them this recording once I put it up. I just need to wait for it to download from Zoom and then I'll start uploading it to YouTube. I should have it by latest out to you by tomorrow afternoon to everybody. And I'll get all those forms and the slides and this presentation to everyone. And unless there's anything else, I will talk to you guys online via email, or I will see you on the 23rd. The 23rd will most likely be a short meeting, but I will also just kind of do a refresher on the survey forms one more time, just to be as clear as possible. Um, Thank you all again for your volunteering and for the work that you do within our community. It's so appreciated. And we wouldn't be able to do this survey and this pit count without each and every one of you and your organizations. So thank you for your time, and I'll talk to all of you soon.